We see this everywhere, from politics and business to entertainment. The cunning, the deceitful, and even the ruthless seem to climb to the top of power and wealth. Meanwhile, honest, kind, and compassionate people are often left behind, struggling to make ends meet. Is this just a coincidence? Or is there a deeper law that governs how the world truly operates? Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most controversial philosophers in history, offered a bold perspective on this issue. He believed that success doesn't come from following traditional morality, but from mastering power and redefining ethics to serve one's own advantage. According to Nietzsche, the world operates under two types of morality: master morality and slave morality. Those who are strong and willing to break the rules are the ones who rise to power, while those bound by conventional values remain stuck at the bottom. But does this mean that success requires ruthlessness? Is it possible to rise without sacrificing integrity? In this video, we'll dive into Nietzsche's ideas on power, ambition, and morality to uncover the raw truth about how the world really works. In a world where resources are limited and competition is fierce, success is rarely a matter of fairness. Those who hesitate, waiting for justice to prevail, often find themselves overtaken by those who act decisively, those who are willing to exploit, deceive, and dominate. It is an unsettling reality, one that forces us to confront a difficult question. Is morality a weakness in the pursuit of power? Yet history presents a paradox. The worst individuals, those who claw their way to the top through ruthlessness, often achieve incredible success, but their reign is rarely permanent. Some meet spectacular downfalls, while others, despite their cruelty, leave lasting legacies. This raises two critical questions: not just why the ruthless rise, but whether their power is sustainable. And more importantly, what does this mean for those of us who refuse to abandon our principles? To answer this, we must first understand the nature of power itself. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most controversial philosophers in history, believed that power is not inherently good or evil. It simply is. Power is a fundamental force of life, and those who understand its workings shape the world, while those who ignore it become subject to it. According to Nietzsche, the key to understanding why the ruthless often succeed lies in his distinction between master morality and slave morality, two opposing value systems that have shaped human history. Let's go deeper. Imagine two warriors standing on a battlefield. One is strong, decisive, and fearless. He takes what he wants, imposes his will upon the world, and does not seek permission. The other is hesitant, waiting for approval, hoping that his fairness and virtue will be recognized and rewarded. Now ask yourself, which of these two is more likely to survive, which is more likely to rule? Nietzsche argued that morality is not an absolute truth, but a reflection of power dynamics. Master morality belongs to those who dominate, the rulers, the conquerors, the creators of history. It celebrates strength, courage, ambition, and the ability to shape one's own destiny. To those who embrace master morality, good is defined by what enhances power, independence, and achievement. They do not seek validation from society. They define their own worth. They do not view weakness as something to be protected. It is simply an obstacle to be overcome. In contrast, slave morality arises from those who lack power, the oppressed, the conquered, the weak. Since they cannot impose their will upon the world, they create a moral system that glorifies humility, obedience, and self-sacrifice. Slave morality teaches that suffering is noble, that ambition is evil, and that power itself is corrupt. It is a morality born not out of strength, but out of necessity, a psychological strategy to cope with being dominated. And here lies the uncomfortable truth. Slave morality does not prevent the rise of the ruthless. It enables it. By condemning ambition and shaming those who pursue power, it leaves the world's control in the hands of those who do not care about morality at all. While the kind and just hesitate, those who embrace master morality seize control. And in a world where hesitation equals defeat, the results are inevitable. So where does this leave us? Does power belong only to the ruthless? Must one abandon morality to rise? Or is there a way to integrate power and virtue, to wield strength without losing integrity? Friedrich Nietzsche argued that morality itself is not a universal truth, but a creation of power struggles throughout history. He saw two fundamental moral systems, master morality and slave morality. These are not just abstract concepts. They explain why ruthless individuals often rise to dominance, while those who prioritize kindness and fairness struggle. Master morality is the morality of the strong, the rulers, the conquerors. It is based on values like strength, courage, ambition, and power. To the masters, what is good is what enhances their ability to dominate, create, and assert their will upon the world. They do not seek approval. They define their own worth. They take responsibility for their destiny and do not see weakness as something to be protected. It is merely something to be overcome. Slave morality, on the other hand, is the morality of the oppressed, the powerless, those who cannot impose their will directly. Instead of celebrating strength, it glorifies humility, obedience, and self-sacrifice. It teaches that suffering is noble and that power is inherently evil. Nietzsche saw this as a moral system created by those who lacked the ability to dominate, a psychological adaptation that allowed them to survive in a world controlled by the strong. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Slave morality does not prevent the rise of the ruthless. It enables it. By condemning ambition, by shaming the pursuit of power, it leaves power in the hands of those who do not care about morality at all. While the noble-hearted hesitate, those who embrace master morality take control. And in a world where hesitation equals defeat, the results are inevitable. So what does this mean for us? Should we abandon morality entirely and embrace the ruthless path? Or is there another way to reconcile strength and virtue? To answer that, we must look deeper into the psychology of those who rise to power, the ones who refuse to be victims of circumstance. Picture a vast, untamed wilderness. In this world, survival is not about fairness or kindness. It's about strength, adaptability, and the willingness to do whatever it takes. The lion does not ask permission to hunt. The storm does not apologize for its destruction. Nature does not reward morality. It rewards those who can endure, those who can dominate. Human society is no different. Beneath our laws and social contracts, the primal battle for survival still rages. Those who rise to power often share a defining trait: ruthlessness. Not necessarily cruelty, but the ability to act decisively, unburdened by hesitation or guilt. This is not an accident. It is an evolutionary adaptation, a mechanism that has allowed individuals and empires alike to seize control in a world that does not wait for the hesitant. Psychologists have long studied the traits that predict success in competitive environments. Time and time again, we see the same patterns: high levels of ambition, a low sensitivity to fear, and, perhaps most controversially, a reduced sense of empathy for those who stand in the way. This does not mean that all powerful people are psychopaths, but it does mean that many of them possess traits that allow them to act without the emotional constraints that hold others back. Consider the leaders, entrepreneurs, and conquerors who reshaped history. From Julius Caesar to modern business moguls, the pattern is clear. Hesitation is a liability, and power is taken, not given. The strong do not wait for permission to lead. They step forward, take risks, and face consequences later. This is why the ruthless rise while the hesitant remain in the shadows. But here's the paradox. Ruthlessness alone is not enough. Those who wield power without wisdom often face spectacular downfalls. The same qualities that allow a person to climb to the top can also be their undoing. A leader who rules through fear alone will eventually be consumed by the very forces they once controlled. History is littered with tyrants who believed they were invincible, until they weren't. So if power is often seized by the ruthless, does this mean that morality and fairness are doomed to fail? Not necessarily. But to understand why, we need to challenge one of the greatest illusions of modern society: the belief that the world is fair. From childhood, we are told a comforting story that the world is fair, that good people are rewarded, and that justice will always prevail. Fairy tales, religious teachings, and moral philosophies reinforce this belief. But then, as we step into reality, a brutal contradiction emerges. The hardest workers are not always the wealthiest. The most honest do not always lead. The kindest hearts are often the most broken. This disconnect is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. The idea of fairness is, in many ways, a social construct, a narrative designed to maintain order rather than reflect reality. It is a comforting illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. Power and success are not handed out based on merit alone. They are taken, fought for, and often hoarded by those who understand the game better than others. Psychological research has revealed a phenomenon called the just world fallacy, the tendency to believe that life is inherently fair, that people get what they deserve. This belief is dangerous because it encourages passivity. If we assume that goodness alone will lead to success, we risk ignoring the realities of competition, strategy, and power. And while we wait for justice, those who do not share our illusions are already moving forward. But does this mean morality is meaningless? Should we abandon all principles in the pursuit of power? Not quite. The key is to understand the game without becoming a slave to it. Those who suffer the most are often those who believe that simply playing nice will be enough. But those who learn to balance integrity with strategic thinking, who combine kindness with strength, are the ones who rewrite the rules. The truth is this: fairness is not something we can expect, it is something we must create. And that requires power. Nietzsche saw this struggle as a fundamental part of human existence. His answer was not to surrender to the illusion of fairness, nor to become mindlessly ruthless. Instead, he pointed to something higher, a way to transcend both weakness and cruelty. To understand this, we must explore one of his most revolutionary ideas, the Ubermensch, the individual who rises beyond morality, beyond illusions, and beyond limitations. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast abyss. Behind you lies the world as it is, filled with injustice, limitations, and the oppressive weight of convention. Before you lies the unknown, a path only the bold dare to walk. Most will hesitate, shackled by fear and doubt, but a few will take the leap. These are the Ubermenschen, the individuals who rise above the masses, who forge their own path, who redefine power on their own terms. Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of the Ubermensch, or overman, is not about brute strength or blind domination. It is about self-overcoming. The Ubermensch is someone who refuses to be a victim of circumstances, who does not accept imposed morality without question, and who shapes their own destiny instead of conforming to the expectations of others. At the heart of the Ubermensch is the will to power. Unlike the passive morality of submission and guilt, the will to power is about embracing one's deepest instincts, to create, to transform, to impose meaning upon a meaningless world. It is not about control over others, but control over oneself. While the weak are trapped by fear, the Ubermensch moves forward, untethered from societal illusions. But here's the key: the Ubermensch is not ruthless for the sake of cruelty. Unlike the tyrants and manipulators who seize power out of insecurity, the Ubermensch does not need validation. Their strength comes from within. They do not rely on deception or oppression because their power is self-generated, independent of external approval or fleeting success. This is why the worst people may rise to power, but they will never truly transcend. The ruthless play a temporary game, climbing through manipulation and force. But the Ubermensch plays the infinite game, building something greater than themselves. They are creators, not just takers. So how do we embody this? How do we navigate a world that rewards the ruthless while refusing to become one of them? The answer lies in understanding power, not as a weapon, but as a tool. The next step is learning how to compete in a world that does not wait for the kind-hearted. Picture this: you're in a high-stakes game where the rules are written by those who play to win at any cost. If you hesitate, if you assume fairness will protect you, you lose. This is the reality many face in business, politics, and life itself. The ruthless know this. They take what they want. But does this mean you must become like them to survive? Not necessarily. The mistake most people make is believing they only have two choices: be ruthless or be a victim. But there is a third path. One that blends strategic thinking with integrity. One that allows you to compete without losing your soul. Nietzsche's philosophy wasn't about blind domination. It was about transcending weakness while maintaining authenticity. The key is understanding power without being enslaved by it. Here's how. One of the biggest weaknesses people have is their belief that life should be fair. It shouldn't. It never was. The strongest competitors accept this early on. They don't waste time complaining about injustice. They learn the rules of the game and use them to their advantage. This doesn't mean abandoning ethics. It means recognizing that power is neutral, and those who understand it wield it best. Many fail because they assume kindness alone will bring them success. But power is rarely given, it is taken. That doesn't mean becoming cruel, but it does mean understanding the minds of those who seek to exploit you. Strategic empathy means reading people deeply, recognizing their motives, and anticipating their moves. It allows you to navigate deception without becoming deceptive yourself. Most people are controlled by fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. The Ubermensch, however, develops internal power. This means embracing discomfort, taking risks, and forging your own path despite opposition. The most successful people do not ask for permission. They create opportunities where none exist. There is a difference between mindless ruthlessness and controlled ruthlessness. The first is destruction without purpose. The second is the ability to make hard choices without hesitation. At times, power requires walking away from toxic relationships, making unpopular decisions, or confronting uncomfortable truths. This is not cruelty, it is strength. The key is knowing when and how to apply it. The ruthless often rise fast, but they also fall hard. Why? Because their power is built on exploitation, not creation. The true Ubermensch builds, whether it's a business, an idea, a movement, or a personal transformation. When you create value, you become indispensable. You do not need to manipulate because your power is earned, not stolen. So can you succeed in a world that rewards the ruthless? Absolutely, but only if you stop playing by the old rules, stop expecting fairness, and start mastering power on your own terms. But this brings us to the ultimate question. Is power itself evil, or is it simply misunderstood? Power is the force that drives the world, shaping the lives of those who possess it and those who are at its mercy. But is power inherently evil? Nietzsche's exploration of power wasn't just about domination, it was about creation. The drive to acquire power, according to Nietzsche, is often misunderstood. It's not about crushing others beneath your boot. It's about surpassing yourself, about transcending the limitations of the current moment and becoming more than you ever imagined. Throughout history, power has been synonymous with corruption. Time and again, we have seen leaders rise with ambition and vision only to be consumed by ego, greed, and the thirst for absolute control. Kings, emperors, politicians, and even business tycoons have fallen into the same trap, believing that power grants them invincibility, that they are above consequence. This paradox leaves us with a difficult question. Is power itself evil, or does it merely amplify the darkness already present within us? Friedrich Nietzsche rejected the idea that power, in its purest form, was about domination or harm. For him, power was about self-overcoming, the relentless drive to become something greater, to push beyond one's limits, and to create new values rather than simply inheriting those dictated by society. But society, fearing power's disruptive force, has often framed it as corrupt. In a world where virtue is publicly championed, the individual who dares to seek power is often viewed with suspicion. But what if this is a misunderstanding? What if power, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic, is the most authentic expression of life itself? What if those who reject conventional morality and forge their own path are not villains, but the truest manifestations of human potential? The difference between tyranny and greatness, between corruption and creation, lies in the purpose behind the pursuit of power. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power was never about mere control over others. It was something deeper, an inner force, a drive to live more fully, to explore the boundaries of what one can become. This is where power becomes an ethical pursuit, rather than a destructive force. To Nietzsche, true power was not about bending others to your will, but about bending yourself into something greater. It was about refusing to accept the limitations imposed by convention, about shattering expectations and rebuilding oneself according to a higher vision. But does this mean that everyone who seeks power is virtuous? Not at all. The path to power is treacherous, and like a double-edged sword, it can lead one to enlightenment or destruction. The crucial distinction lies in intent. Are you seeking power as a means of imposing your will on others, or as a path to surpassing your own limitations? Are you driven by fear and greed, or by a deep, unshakable commitment to something greater than yourself? This is where many fail. Power, in the hands of those who are unprepared, undisciplined, or self-indulgent, becomes a poison. It distorts their perception, making them believe they are untouchable, beyond accountability. But for those who seek power with integrity, who wield it not as a weapon, but as a tool for transformation, power becomes a force for unimaginable greatness. So, is power evil? No, not inherently. Power is neutral. It is a force, neither good nor bad, but shaped by the one who wields it. It is like fire. In the hands of the wise, it brings warmth, light, and life. In the hands of the reckless, it brings only destruction. Nietzsche's challenge to us is clear. Do not fear power, master it. Learn to wield it with discipline, strength, and an unshakable commitment to becoming more than you are today. Because in the end, power does not corrupt, it simply reveals who we truly are. What is the relationship between power and a person's inner ego? How would an individual with an awakened ego behave when power is in their hands? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you learned something from this video, please like, subscribe to the Top Hidden Knowledge channel for more content on wisdom, spirituality, and personal growth. Or if you have time, check out other videos on this channel. Until next time.